Everybody, how we doing? It's Chase. Today's stream will be Bitcoin analysis and some actionable setups for the coming days and or week. Before we get into it, just a quick shout out to PrimeXBT. They're the ones who sponsor these videos. Right at the bottom of the video here, you can see the links. You get a free 50% on top of whatever you deposit. So if you deposit 1 Bitcoin, you get 1.5 to trade with. Check them out. Awesome exchange. All right, let's get into it. So first thing I like to do, right, and sort of we're going to get into a little bit of my background and how I strategize things as well, since this is sort of the initial video. Haven't done an analysis video in quite some time. I like to zoom out, right? I think a lot of people like to really zoom out and go to the high time frame. Here we're only on the 4 hour, but I think that's okay. I'll explain why. I think when you have the candle colors and everything showing, things can get a little confusing in the brain, so to say, right? So I really like to zoom out, and I think it's easy to find levels when you zoom out, and then we're going to zoom in later and we'll refine them. So we can see all the candles basically look like they're one color. We're not really worried about where the daily support or resistance is. We're not really worried about where the order block is. We're not worried about where the the visible range is or anything. We're sort of just taking support and resistance, buyers and sellers, at its simplest form. And I find that simple usually works well for me. All right, so we can see we obviously have a level here, right? Resistance, 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 flips to support. There we go, easy level. Here we have another one. Support, support, support. Comes down, front runs it a little bit. We have another level that separates the top. So this resistance and this top area before the big breakdown. Okay. And I would say we have another level that sort of takes us out of this consolidation, right? So we had a little, type of wedge here if you really wanted to draw it, or ascending triangle breakout. And basically the consolidation that broke and took out this high was where we bounced from. So we're going to mark that out. So here's the high, and there was the consolidation that broke out. Okay, so now we have all our levels here. Now let's refine them a little bit, clean this up. We're going to zoom in. I'm going to start using the colors that I prefer. We'll get the magnet tool out. Okay, let's refine this down. So there we go. Now that level looks clean. A little overshoot right there. Resistance, resistance, resistance. Flips support. Takes off from there. Okay, beautiful. Let's make sure we get the exact top here. It should be right there. Okay. Now we have this support, 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 but I'm really more concerned about this recent price action, so we will pull over here and we'll go to the top of basically this current range. We can see sort of a range develop here, ran the range high, and that little wick came back down. Now up here, we had this level marked out. If you remember on Twitter, let's pull this up. I said if this level breaks, we're going to 16.8. And that is exactly what happened, even though it actually went further. And for full transparency, my weak hands closed around 17.4. I did not hold for the full 16.8 on my short. Hey, that's just a mistake on my end. There's really nothing else to say about it. Okay. So now we have most of our levels marked. What do they mean, right? And actually, we should highlight this consolidation, because this was the consolidation that sort of began, the up move. Okay, let's give this a color. Zoom out a little bit again. Once again, I think this view is always very clean to me, right? It's just something I like to do. I'm not sure if it's any type of, it's not really a technical tip or anything, but I think you'll find that when you zoom out and if you have all black borders on your candles, then they start to look like this, and it just makes it very easy to view how price interacted in different areas with each other. Okay, so again, we have our resistance flip to support. This was the consolidation that sort of began the run. This was the consolidation that took out the high. This is where we dug down to above here, which is basically our breakdown point. See, we were sort of capping the market here. It was sort of all capped throughout here. Last week's high was around here. Capped, support, 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 breakdown. Okay, if we get back above here, I'm pretty sure we're going all-time highs and above. So that's one setup, but not necessarily one that I'm really concerned with right now. We're going to go more short-term setups. So let me take a sip of water here. It's pretty simple. I think if we come out of the top here, we look for this to flip to support, okay? Currently resistance, currently capping the market. If this flips to support, we're automatically targeting this level right here. And I'm sure there's some good confluence on this level. This is probably like the bottom of the old daily support or something. Let's just take a look. Yeah, you see? So daily wick, support, support, resistance. Okay, so this was sort of what I was saying, whereas you don't need to necessarily know exactly where every single daily level or order block is. It's sort of all just support and resistance, buyers and sellers, supply, demand, sort of all the same thing on the chart, at least to me personally. I'm sure there's some people that would disagree, but that's just how I see it. Okay, so capping the market, we would look for an up move out of here. I would not chase, right, because we want to make sure there's no deviation. So is the potential for something like this. It comes back in. So there's no need to chase. What is an actionable setup here? What do I mean by that? Let's take a look. So now we're going to zoom in. Well, first off, there's two ways to approach it, right? The first way you approach it is you simply buy the retest. This is going to give you the optimal risk-reward scenario, but it's also going to be much more risky. So, excuse me, let's just say you have a fairly tight stop. You buy the retest. It goes to target. Clean. Okay. Second option is this. Second option, which is going to be more reliable. You're going to get stopped out less, but your risk reward is not going to be nearly as nice, most likely. What you would do is you'd wait for the move out of the range. You'd watch the retest, make sure that we're actually flipping resistance to support. Okay. If it is actually flipping, then we should break this high. Okay. That high will be broken and off to the target we go. So in that scenario, you wouldn't get long until up here. Your stop would still have to be back inside the range, and you'd come out with about, a 1.14 risk reward. Now, I typically try to aim for, at least 2 to 3 risk reward on trades. This probably isn't something I would take. Doesn't look like there's enough room to it for me. You could tighten the stop a little bit, but it starts to get a bit more risky in that case. But yeah, so that's an actionable setup for there. On the other side, let's look towards the lows here in this consolidation. This was really where I was looking to get long. I had a lot of stink bids in here. I call them, they're no longer stink bids really, but they were stink bids when we were up here. I said, okay, I got stink bids at 15.8. So what's the actionable setup down here? It's pretty simple once again. Now you have the option to go for max risk reward, in which you bid this area, okay? That's your maximum risk reward. You're going to bid the area, you're going to keep a decently wide stop, and you're going to target at least this high, at least 18,000. Okay? Your other way to do this, now, because the problem is here, right, you could just blow right through. Now, I doubt it. It seems like, this is really an area that should be quite resilient and strong. It SR flipped here, so resistance, resistance, resistance. It tests support a few times, but it didn't really dig at anything crazy. It dug at it for nearly 2 days, and then it took off. So yeah, it's a little more questionable than I thought, but I still think it's a pretty good level. I think I'll most likely be blind bidding it personally, and going for the optimal risk reward. The stop out at a major level, it doesn't really bother me as much. Like I said, if you have good levels, I think most of the time, it can be very simple, it can be very basic, but if you have good levels, then most of the time you can be confident that you're going to at least get some kind of a bounce, right? If it comes down and you bid all this and you get a bounce to here and it's starting to get rejected, well, shit, you can get out, no big deal. And if it reclaims, and this will be the next setup, if it reclaims, you can get back in with stop below the low, and you have a good invalidation. Okay, so what is the second setup? The second setup would be price comes down into the consolidation, reclaims all these lows, okay? So you're going to have sellers here, and you're going to have all sellers trapped in here as well, right? So all these sellers will be trapped. It'll reclaim right off the bottom here. That's where you would get long, and obviously you'd be targeting, again, same target. And in this case, you'd be stopped below the low, and you're still getting a bit above 2 risk reward, which is a pretty acceptable trade there. Okay. As far as this area in here, it's been fairly choppy. There has been, there was a decent range trade to the top. We can see here, it didn't really push high enough. Okay, I was trying to play a range trade here, and I didn't get filled actually. I was looking to get a fill right around in here. I saw some confluence, support, support, support. I figured we'd get up into here. We did not. It was barely a wick out, and then it went all the way to the other side of the range. So, you know, that would have been an amazing setup. Unfortunately, you know, I got front run by about, I mean, I'm not even going to call it a front run. My level just didn't hit. I was about 100 points away from getting hit. So be it. Whether that's a sign of weakness or not, you know, I think this area is, you know, fairly choppy for now. We did just sort of break this downtrend line here. Could look for this area of consolidation to once again provide support and go back towards the high. If this does serve as support again and we go back to the high, potentially watch for some consolidation, and that's where you may get your SR flip for the actionable trade that we just spoke about. If this level breaks down, I'm not one to ever short into the lows on Bitcoin. It just always doesn't work. I've learned that a long time ago. When you try to short into the lows, most of the time you just get screwed. So I won't be shorting if it comes back down. I'll simply just be waiting for it to flip this. If it breaks down, then I get in here. You know, I'll take my high risk reward from this area. For those who want to be more careful, you can wait for the reclaim. If you get the reclaim, obviously targeting the same area. I do think this level should provide some type of support for sure. If it does not, we're definitely, you know, going to be moving down further if this area flips back into resistance. So pretend we go down here. This flips back into resistance. First major level I could see that I'd be, I mean, right here we can obviously see a good amount of confluence, right? And if that breaks down, then, you know, I think we're looking at, we'll be looking at high 13s, you know, maybe 14, high 13s. Let me draw this level properly here. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can actually get some detail. Yeah, right around there we can see the low, and then we can see it serve as resistance. Okay, so support, breaks down, serves as resistance right here. Support, retest support, 14.8. Okay, so if we lose 15.8, I'm looking at 14.8. If we lose 14.8, I'm looking at 13.9. And I think that's about everything. We covered the actionable setups. I show you guys how I find my support and resistance levels. If we do manage to do some type of crazy thing where we moon back above this level, I would certainly be watching for, you know, whether it chops or not, I'm not sure, but definitely watch for consolidation around this level, a reclaim, and if it goes, I think that's where you're entering, and we're going for all-time highs. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.